So assimilation is the kind of model that the settler society uses, right?
Right.
And so the idea with assimilation is that Native peoples are going to lose their, their indigeneity, right? This is a form of colonial erasure, right? So it's the idea of getting rid of Indianness in ways that are not built on solely, either genocide or violence, right? So the kind of violent extirpation of indigenous peoples that you see, particularly in the 18th and 19th centuries, with the United States expansion, to the West Coast, right? That's one form of this either subordination or erasure of indigenous peoples, but it's not sufficient. In other words, you can't just go and kill all the native peoples, no matter that was tried, obviously, in certain circumstances. But you can't really do it effectively. And you can't effectively just simply remove them geographically again, even though that was tried. So following on or concomitant with those sorts of efforts are other efforts at, what you said, what was called assimilation or improvement in the 19th century. And this was the idea that natives were going to, again, lose their kind of indigenous cultures as they became, quote unquote, American or part of the United States, et cetera. Gotcha. And so that process, is kind of the lens that most Americans today are taught to see indigenous history from, right? But it's deeply, deeply problematic because it assumes this kind of loss of authentic indigeneity. In other words, it's hard for a lot of non-native peoples today to understand how and why contemporary native societies are in fact truly native when they do things, when they have things like Christianity in their community, when they speak English, when they work for wages and are part of the economy, all that kind of stuff. There's this kind of caricature of natives as pre-modern in ways that are meant to kind of lock, true or real indigenous peoples into the past so that you don't have true or real or authentic indigenous peoples in the present. And by doing so, that's a strategy that allows for the ongoing kind of, colonial processes that we experience today in the United States. In other words, there are no Indians because all the real Indians died, right? This is a really common myth. Or all the real Indians are gone because they don't live like Indians anymore. And what I'm trying to show in my book is that is totally incorrect, right? That while there is obviously fundamental cultural change amongst indigenous people, that the way they see the world and the way they act in the world is basically the same on a fundamental